We're all good. Feel free. Let's see. You want to do this off?
Well, Coach, a chance to continue momentum with 3 straight home games coming up against FC Dallas. Against a team that has a new head coach, relatively, I mean, he's an assistant coach that's been elevated. What do you kind of have to watch out for, especially?
Well, there's the new coach bump. Look, I was a long-time assistant with Zig, so, whether that really helped or the team just heard a different voice or whatever it is, you'll get a bump out of them. They obviously scored 5 goals. So credit to Peter, and let's see what he brings here.
You also mentioned post-game. This team is really good. They just need to start believing it or need to realize it. Yeah, your team.
In moments.
Do you think there's that confidence there? And do you think it's...
I think it's there in moments. What I want them, my point there was more, when things aren't going so well, who's the one that's changing that narrative? It was more so that, look, when our team's going and, the way we started against Minnesota, everybody can see we're a good team. When things aren't going so well, because look, every game has momentum changes. We might take a goal off of something. You got to be able to fight through those moments. That's what I was talking about.
When you go back and look at the game, you mentioned that you couldn't disagree that was probably the worst.
I just quoting someone.
Yep. And with that, now that you've seen the tape, do you agree? Sometimes you say things you haven't seen the tape.
It wasn't. Look, the body language wasn't right. Heads down after the goals that we took. Who's helping the 2 young kids in the middle of the field? I wanted a little bit more leadership out of certain players for sure. But I'm not, was it our worst half? I don't know. That's debatable. Everything's gray, right? You might see something that I don't, vice versa.
The lack of cohesiveness, do you feel like that was due to, the change of formation is interesting because you guys built out with 3 in the back anyways. But did it feel like Albert mentioned that maybe it was...
I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take it. It's much.
So did you feel like the setup wasn't great?
I'll accept responsibility for it. It's my job as a coach to give them confidence, the tools. I thought, the tactics were pretty good, but obviously it didn't work. So,
But I guess when you look back at that, as Nico said, you guys effectively play in a similar formation a lot of the time. Anyway, do you like starting in that? Do you still like some of the principles?
You might see that lineup later this year.
So what's different about it in the setup?
There's none. Attacking. There is none.
I was looking at that second goal with Yamar. The giveaway happens at midfield, and I kind of saw Jackson was almost jogging back from zone 11 of the field. He was really high. Was that kind of part of should there be more players back in order to kind of defend that takeaway or that giveaway?
We wanted to be aggressive in that area of the field. Jackson, Jonathan Bell, and Yaimar, you have 3 center backs. 1 center back could always, depending on the play, depending on the circumstance, one of them had the freedom to go in those moments. You're still left with 2.
You had Alex able to do some things, and that didn't see Raul. So what is that?
Raul's just having a little bit of a pro day, came back late, be fine. Alex is not going to play. He's still in a concussion.
And that's the concussion protocol is there's no concern still, or I know you've got to go through the steps, but
you have to go through the steps. Again, we're going to be ultra cautious. Head injuries are important. The fact that it's Christian's brother, there's lots of little nuances there, but Alex is fine. He'll tell you he's fine, but we're going to be careful.
And how are the other? How did everyone else come through the game?
Good. They're a little sluggish today, but it's a +2. This is actually the hardest day for guys to recover. So we'll get them an extended regen in there, and they'll be fine.
And I know we've talked about you wanting to get Pedro 2 full weeks of training. How is that tracking?
Good question. Way to frame it. Way to put me on a spot. If you called this week a full week of training because Monday, Friday, you could make that argument that it was a full week of training. Next week will be the real test when we got a 4-day build. I'll give you further updates towards the end of that week.
And generally speaking, though, do you like the progress that he's making?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When it comes to Raul and Jordan at the 9, is that something that you're going to continue to kind of rotate on game-to-game basis, or does it feel like Jordan's beginning to just take that position?
I think it's still game by game for now. Jordan's obviously on a little bit of a streak. Raul was on a streak a little earlier in the year. So some of that is, confidence, form. Some of it's that, some of it's tactics.
How much of it is Leo and Oda, the way that they seem to be playing well together?
Well, Leo had a good game against Minnesota. There's some things that obviously he did really well. The assist were some things he still needs to work on to be a consistent starter. Obed, same. I mean, he's had a really great start to the year. Wasn't his best performance against Houston, but he'll recover.
So it's kind of a fact. It's not like
They're just young kids.
gotta have-
Yeah, they're young kids. They'll have ups and downs. We hope to make sure that the highs are a little higher than the lows.
to have Paul and Jackson score within 5 minutes of each other. They started playing when they're 7 years old. I mean, what does that speak to in terms of Seattle soccer?
Well, our media team, social media team, did a great job. I saw the clips. I mean, it was hilarious. The photo when they were really young, Jackson, the tallest kid, Rothrock over on the other side. The clips of that game, mentioning Wade Weber, the process that we've had now for quite a few years of academy products coming in, playing not just roles on the team but substantial roles. I think that's critical. So kudos to those two young kids. Soccer in this area, yes. Kudos to the club and Wade and Henry and Irv and all the guys. John Hutchison was here, and even Dickie McCormick, Darren Sawatsky years ago. It's been a pretty good academy pipeline. I think we're now just showing the real, I guess, how do I want to put this? The money is now starting to show. We've always had good players come out of the area, but now when you've got guys like Obed, when you got guys, Jordan didn't make it over in Europe. Maybe DeAndre was a one-off, maybe, but we've got a consistent crop of guys that are worth a lot of money. So it's paying dividends.
Is that the ultimate marker for that? Also you've had like Jordan World Cup rosters, though. I mean, is there still another?
Those are accomplishments. If I'm understanding your question, those are accomplishments by players that play for the club. That's my point there. Does the club want to go and be a selling club, all of that sort of stuff? I leave that to Adrian and Craig.
But it's a marker as how the academy is developing players and getting the top tiers. They're like another notch that it's still.
Well, I mean, yeah, Jordan and Christian reaching the highest pinnacle of, so far there. Obed, does he have a chance with Mexico now? Yeah, you could say that would probably be the pinnacle.
We're at the point now where MLS teams are starting to announce signings for the upcoming summer. Do you start getting a little antsy? Do you put any extra pressure on Craig and Adrian and say, go give me some more players?
Well, my job is mainly to coach. I know those guys are working hard upstairs. And Jeremiah, yes. Sometimes I go upstairs and I listen.
When it comes to this game, Dallas is a talented team up top. Musa just coming from a hat trick. What's the key for you to not just get a result, but actually get a win tomorrow at home?
Do the same things that we did well against Minnesota. Start the game on the front foot, make sure our possession's good. They play a back line of 5, so we're prepared for that. It'll be execution of what we want to try and accomplish versus letting them, run the game in a little bit lower block. They've got some good athletes. I know they're going to come after us in transition moments, so being clean on the ball, making sure we execute, those things will be important.